Hey guys, Deanne Taylor here. So in last week's video, I showed you how you can utilize a Power Automate flow to then create a plugin action. And plugin actions are currently, as you might not know, in preview. In this video, I'm actually going to show you how we can then dynamically chain together topics and these plugin actions that are in preview by utilizing this new preview feature. So before I show you how exactly this works, let me first explain to you what dynamic chaining is. Now, if you want to turn this on, you can go here to generative AI and then you scroll down. And then here you can see the dynamic chaining with generative actions that is in preview today. You can just turn that on here and then you're going to hit save. Now, dynamic chaining, when this is enabled, generative actions will be taking control of the routing of all of the conversations. So this means that when a message is received from a customer, then GPT will determine which topics and which plugin actions need to be called to respond to that query or that chat. So this really changes things, right? So the main difference here is that instead of looking for trigger phrases, Copilot or GPT that's used by Copilot will depend on other things to determine which topic or plugin actions need to be called. Now, the most important thing to remember here is that GPT will make its decision on things like the description of the topic or plugin actions, and the name of inputs and outputs, and descriptions of those input and outputs, etc. So if we go here to topics and plugins, and then let me just go ahead and open one of my topics here. So I have a couple here. As you can see, I have find RSM locations. And what you'll see is that my trigger phrases now have been replaced by these dynamic chaining, by a dynamic chaining trigger, I should say, right? So this is very, very important. This is what I'm talking about. So you really want to describe what this topic does in like one or two sentences. So that's really the main difference here. You also see, if I go back here to topics and plugins, and if I go look at my plugin actions, that these are now set to trigger on dynamic chaining, right? So all of them are set to that trigger by default, but you can turn them on or off if you just drill into that plugin action. And then here on the bottom, you can see this is currently enabled. If I want to disable that, I can just go ahead and do that. So again, for plugin actions, right, you have to make sure that you set a really good model display name and that description as well. So make sure all your descriptions, not just for your plugin actions, but also for your topics, that they're up to par. So once your customer starts that chat, right, it then decides, like I said, which topics or plugins are selected. And then Copilot also determines in which order these should be run, and they chain those plugin actions and or topics then together. You can actually see this chain happening. So if you test your bot and you click here on this, I'm going to leave this page, and you click here on this tracing mode, then you can see in here the chaining that's actually happening. So I actually have two examples that I want to show you. So you can see if I go back here to topics and plugins, let me go back to topics. Here I have something that says find RSM locations. And right here's my question, right, I'm happy to help you find an RSM office near you. We have locations in West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Coral Gables. Which one are you interested in? You pick one, and then it gives you details about that location. Then if I go back here, I also have a plugin action here to get the weather. And I actually did a video on how to create that plugin action. So I'm going to demo that first. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to say something like, I am looking for an RSM office. And obviously I need to have this enabled. And look at that. It actually now pulled in my find RSM locations topic in here, right? And here you can see my input and then you can see the output as well. So let's just pick the Fort Lauderdale office here. And it's giving me now the Fort Lauderdale, that message, right, that I showed you earlier. Now, each time when a user or a customer enters a message, we still have access to the questions and the answers, I should say. That's the most important thing, right? That was given earlier. So the customer actually clicked here on Fort Lauderdale, right? That was the office, that they were looking for. So we still have access to that. So now let me just ask, what is the weather like there? Right? So I'm still talking about Fort Lauderdale. And it should then, there you go. It now is loading my weather plugin. And you can see that I didn't have to enter the location because it remembered that. So that's pretty cool, right? So this is really drastically going to change the way that we can create these plugins and topics because, again, right, we have access to previously entered data. So the system is smart enough, first of all, to identify the topics or the plugin actions that it needs to use. And then it also is smart enough to identify the order where it needs to be entered in, right? Or it needs to be the order of the plugins and the topics. Now, the other thing that I tried here is trying to combine some of these. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's just refresh this and let's start over. So I'm going to say, I'm looking for an RSM office and I want to know what the weather is like there. So if I say Fort Lauderdale, unfortunately, it doesn't automatically now pick up that answer, right? It asks me again, what is the location you would like to get the current weather for? So now I have to enter that. And then it gives me that information. We do see, right, first here is that topic. And then the second one is now actually that get the current weather message. It's asking me what is the unit. See, and I didn't have to enter that previously, right? So now it's actually giving me that. So that's something that Microsoft is aware of. Again, this is a preview feature, right? So these are all things that we can try out. So that's kind of what Microsoft is going to work on so that it will pick that up. Now, another example here that I have, and this is kind of going back to my previous video where I showed you that I actually had a plugin that I created, and that plugin was called Find Contact by Email, that I created by using a Power Automate flow. So what it does is it queries Dynamics 365 for contact record by using the email address that the customer enters, and then it gives back that unique ID of that contact. And then I created a second plugin action, also from a Power Automate flow, and that's called Create a Case from Contact ID, which then creates a case and relates it to the contact by using that same unique ID, that contact ID of that contact record. So let me kind of show you what that looks like. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, I need my contact ID, and let's see what it does here. It should, here we go, find contact by email. So it's asking me enter your email address. I'm going to say anna@gmail.com. And then it should bring me back, here we go, that unique ID from Dynamics 365. So now again, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, I want to create case. And now it should again, yep, please give me the case description, right? It again filled out that unique ID for that contact. So I'm going to say HVAC issues, and it should put that in the case description, and then create that case by using that Power Automate flow, and then give me back that case ID. And of course, I'm having an error here, but this should work. Now, again, if I would put these things together, where I'm saying something like, hey, I need to create a case and I need my contact ID, then again, that is not going to work. That's going to work similarly as you just saw when I was showing you that RSM office. But let's go ahead and try that. So let's refresh this. So let's enter, I want to create a case, but I need my contact ID. And now you can see, right, it's chaining those together. First, I need my contact ID, so it does understand that I need that first. Let's just enter here the email address. And you can see it brings me back my contact ID. Not sure why it's doing that twice, but you can see that here. So what we would want is, again, just like we saw earlier, for this contact ID to be pre-populated here in this contact ID, in this create case from contact ID plugin. So unfortunately, it is not doing that yet, but that's definitely something that hopefully will be added once this goes GA. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss another video again. Thanks for watching. Until next time.